Hello my fellow gamers and welcome once again to my SimCity video tutorials. Today I'm going to finish up Gemstone Valley as I finish up raising Diamond Dynamo to high density. Now before I start raising all these buildings to high density, I first need to get you up to date on what's been going on in this city. Well, let's start from the industry. I have decided to bulldoze my 3 mines and switch the 2 mines for a solar power plant. This is because I was running low on the power in the region, so I had to make sure that I would have enough power to get the city and all of its buildings to high density. So now I have this solar power plant here now, which is going to produce just enough power for this entire city. This piece here I have left for some landmarks once I get to high density and I unzone all the commercials so that they do not turn into hotels, but I can still use up the tourists that are coming in from the bus terminal and the train station. Now, why do I no longer have a ferry terminal? Well, this is why. Once I bulldozed my mines, I had to start importing both ore and coal from the region. I was importing by truck and by this freight rail terminal, but the problem was I could never get enough ore for these 2 smelting factories to continuously be operational. I would only be importing a small amount of ore per day because I was getting only a few of these freight trains per day, so I had to upgrade the trade port with a cargo ship dock, which kinda improved, but it was still not enough. The smelting factories were still having a problem to be supplied with ore every day. So finally, what fixed it for me was building this trade depot and placing it on importing ore, which is now what is finally keeping up the smelting factories full of ore during the entire working day, while the trade port is just exporting alloy continuously while importing small amounts of coal. Another thing that I need to mention is a piece of information I was given by one of my followers on YouTube. He said that if you have a problem, like I said in my previous video where I had the problem with the coal mine, that it simply would not transfer its coal to the trade port, and it was continuously being full of coal, but even with 4 trucks I could not get all the coal to the trade port. The trick was to stop accepting local coal deliveries on the trade port and just make the coal go straight to the smelting factories. This wasn't a complete fix, but it did improve the amount of coal that was sent from the coal mine to the smelting factories. So that is one point of information that is very valuable if you have a problem with mines. But like I said in one of my previous videos, I had decided to bulldoze my mines before I go to high density so I wouldn't be polluting too many of my sims. As you can see, the ground pollution has cleared up and no longer is there any ground pollution from those mines. Another change that I had to do was to get myself 3 high density low wealth commercial buildings. This is because these neighborhoods here would simply keep staying in the red happiness, just like these neighborhoods here, and you can still see a few of these buildings at a red happiness. For some reason they just couldn't find enough goods to buy and make themselves happy. So I simply had to build 3 of these low wealth high density commercials so that the amount of goods would go up and I would have only a few unsatisfied low wealth. I did tell you in one of my previous videos that you can keep a certain number of them unsatisfied, but that is only once you actually get to high density, because you do not really have anywhere else to go after high density, so you can keep them at low or medium happiness. You do not have to keep them fully satisfied with goods. But as you can see, in order to get these homes up to maximum happiness necessary for them to go to higher density, I had to give them first shops that had even more goods. When it comes to the medium wealth and high wealth, they've been green and ready to go up for a very long time, waiting just on these low wealth to get to the appropriate levels to go to high density. So this is where I'm going to spend most of my time now, getting all of these buildings to high density. I'm hoping that I'm going to have enough power just from this solar power plant. If not, I can still buy more power from the region. I have made sure to add another solar power plant in Topaz Toast, where I have also increased the amount of water that can be produced. So now the region has extra water and extra power because going to high density in all these cities has really made a big drain on both power and water. When it comes to sewage, it seems that 2 buildings fully upgraded in 2 cities out of 5 cities is enough to get all the sewage from all these cities transferred into clean water. Another addition in this city was adding 3 of these water towers. This is because it seems that whenever you have heavy industry, this is the same thing that happened in my other city where I have heavy industry but no water supply, the Sapphire Sky, where I have 3 refineries now. The refineries, just like here, the smelting factories, simply cannot get enough water by just importing from the region. So you have to sometimes add a few water towers close by so that they would have a constant supply of water. I'm not sure why this is a problem with the game. It seems that whenever a building requires huge amounts of water, if you're just importing water from the region, from the other cities, sometimes these buildings simply cannot get enough water in them. Now let's start upgrading these streets to high density. I am just going to take a moment and talk to you about something. When you look at the population tab right now, you can see that I'm missing a lot of low wealth workers. Now, the reason why I'm going to high density is because I want more low wealth workers. Once I get more low wealth workers, I'm also going to need a lot more goods to satisfy the shoppers that come with those workers. So then this number is going to go up. In order to reduce that number, I'm going to need more high density low wealth shops. But once the number of total goods goes up, I'm going to need more medium and high wealth workers to work in those shops. But once the number for medium and high wealth goes up, also the number of shoppers is going to go up. So I'm going to need more goods. Once I need more goods for the medium and high wealth, I'm going to need more shops for them. Once I build more shops, I'm going to require more low wealth workers. And so you have a never-ending cycle where you always need more as soon as you start going to high density. This is why I must implore you to try and place cities with the least amount of high density buildings that you can. You can have a nice city, a happy people, and a profitable city just with medium density, maybe 1 or 2 high density buildings just to give it a better look. You really do not need to go to full high density in your every city just in order for all the buildings to be at high density. You can have, like I said, a nice proper city at medium density. Now, regardless of that, I did say that this region is going to be full high density and it is going to become that. I'm just trying to take a moment of your time and explain to you why going to high density isn't really necessary for you to have a good time with this game. Now, upgrade streets, high density, high density, high density, and so on. You also need to remember to unzone the commercial on the streets where you're going to high density, because you want to keep control over which buildings and when go to high density commercial, because you might not actually need all of them, and especially not all of them at the same time. Therefore, it's a good idea to unzone all the commercial before you actually start going to high density in your city. And I'm back. As you can see, most of the city is now at high density. I am up to 269,397 population, of which 22,000 are workers, 11,000 are shoppers, and I have 6,000 students, of which I am educating about half. I do have enough capacity because I have built a 3rd grade school, but the problem is getting all the kids to school on time, so that is why they are not all being educated. You can see that I'm still missing low wealth workers, but the entire city is operational, so even though I'm missing those workers, everything is working. I am not satisfying every single shopper, but that is still fine. You can see the amount of happiness that is going up around the city, which means that even though every shopper might not be satisfied, happiness is going up. Now let's look at the roads, or should I say the traffic. Most of the traffic, like in my test city, goes out the city through here, while it enters my city through here. I get more than a few traffic jams around these streets. As you can see here, huge lines going into streets. They are traffic jams which take an hour or two to clear up, but the traffic is constantly on the move. There are no traffic jams that are constantly standing in one spot. As you can see, every single car you can find is actually soon to move, and they do not stand anywhere. Even on places where I have four-way intersections like this, you can see that they are constantly moving and I have a constant traffic flow. So this city has no problem with any sort of traffic issues. When it comes to the buses, you can see that I am transporting 5,000 low-wealth residents and 2,700 medium-wealth residents. That is a total of almost 7,000 residents taking the bus, considering that I have 33,000 workers and shoppers, if I were to call them agents, and I have 7,000 of them using buses. That is around 20 to 25%, and I'm happy with that for a city that does not have any other type of public transportation besides these buses. The smelting factories are still having problems with importing goods from time to time. This is mostly because I still have only trucks bringing in huge loads, while the ships only come once a day or twice a day if I'm lucky. I have tried turning on the trade and freight station, but it did not help, so I'm not really sure what else can I do about that problem. When it comes to power, I am actually having to buy around 100 megawatts from the region. When it comes to the water, I'm also buying water, even though I have a few of these water towers here that are just making sure that the smelting factories do not run out of water. I have turned on both recycling centers and almost all the recycling collection trucks, because I have 5,700 recycled bins collected per day, and I have turned on only one alloy reclamation line per recycling center, which is more than enough to produce around 20 to even 30 tons of alloy per day. Now you can see that a huge amount of shoppers, workers, tourists are going out the city through its north exit, while down here you can see that they're coming in from the south entrance. So I have a very nice traffic flow where only one side of the city is used for entering and the other one for exiting. They do exit a little bit on this side as well, but most of them are just entering, so that is why my traffic is flowing so well. Today I have educated 3,100 out of 6,000, so as I said, I'm not happy with those numbers, but I do not think that there's anything else I can do about it. With 3 grade schools and a high school and probably a gazillion school buses, it doesn't seem to be possible to educate them all. I may have to play a little bit more in order to see about how I can fix that, but I'm not sure should I even bother. When it comes to crime, I have a lot of regional criminals. This is a problem that I have told you about before. Whenever you enter any city that has unemployment, those unemployed create criminals, even though you have other cities that are actually importing those unemployed when you are playing those other cities. But since the game only works when you are actually playing in that city, every city that has unemployed creates more criminals, even though when you're playing some other city, those unemployed are actually workers that are commuting into that other city. As for the health, I am doing quite well, even though I have enough room for 25 patients in both of these clinics. I do not even use half of that. As for the fires, for some strange reason, or should I just call myself lucky, I'm having very few fires at all. Overall happiness, well, as you can see, they're mostly very happy, although the medium class sometimes has buildings that say that they cannot find work. This is because I have 800 workers commuting in when I only need about 300, so they are taking up jobs for my own population. There isn't really any possible fixes for this, unless I just simply bulldoze the building and reduce my number of medium wealth workers so that the number commuting in will even out. So as you can see, all in all, quite a nice city, and I only have one finishing touch. Like I said, I'm going to put in some landmarks and see if I can use up these 2000 tourists to increase my daily profit. I'm thinking I could use some smaller buildings next to the bus station, something like a Leaning Tower of Pisa. All over here I could use a larger building, let's say St. Basilis Cathedral, turn it onto the avenue, and I can even build one more building, let's say the Dutch windmill, which I will place about here. And now a small issue, I have forgotten that the landmarks will increase the land value, so I just need to make sure to unzone any buildings that may be affected. I'm going to have to rebuild this one and try and get a wealth building. There we go. Well, my fellow gamers, with this last shot of this entire high density region, I leave you to your game. I'm signing off for the last time. Thank you all for watching and staying tuned on my channel for so long. Goodbye.